So who are the real terrorists here? Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel. I just saw a tweet from Donald Trump Jr. saying, you know, that the Democrats are all expressing sympathy for Soleimani. I have not seen any Democrat do that. I mean, you know, Jr. is apparently as big a liar as Daddy. And Doug Collins was on Fox, I guess it was Fox Business last night, saying that Democrats basically love terrorists, which is bizarre. I mean, he literally said Democrats love terrorists, when it's really the Republicans who seem to be benefiting the most from acts of terrorism. You know, I mean, keep in mind, when George W. Bush came into office, he was widely viewed as an illegitimate president, put there by the Supreme Court. And, you know, his popularity was in the toilet. He you know, it was tanked. And you had Richard Clark and others literally coming into his office, well, not literally with their hair on fire, but that was the phrase that Richard Clark used to describe how he was presenting himself to the president and the vice president, the national security advisor. And, you know, the Sandy Berger, who was the national security advisor for the Obama administration, told me on this program that in early January of 2020, when they started the transition process from the Clinton administration to the George W. Bush administration, that he told Condoleezza Rice, the new incoming national security advisor, that her biggest challenge was going to be Osama bin Laden. Keep in mind, this was, you know, 9 months before the attacks of 9/11. And Sandy Berger also told me on this program that Al Gore told Dick Cheney that his biggest challenge was going to be Osama bin Laden, and that President Obama told incoming President George W. Bush that he needed to keep his eye on Osama bin Laden. So Bush puts Dick Cheney in charge of two task forces, a counterterrorism task force and an energy task force. Cheney, this is in January. The first meeting of the energy task force is in February. And in March, they had a big one where they were dividing up the oil fields of Iraq. Again, this is before 9/11. But the Cheney task force on counterterrorism that was supposed to keep an eye on Osama bin Laden didn't meet until 2 weeks before 9/11. And 9/11 was like the thing that allowed Dick Cheney to take Halliburton Halliburton was on the verge of bankruptcy when he became vice president. And suddenly they were getting billions of dollars in no-bid contracts for a war with Afghanistan and a war with Iraq. I mean, who's loving the terrorists here? They lied us into a war in Iraq that made trillions of dollars for the defense industry, killed hundreds of thousands of people, including thousands of Americans, both civilian contractors and soldiers. I mean, who really seems to love terrorism? Donald Trump and Mike Pence have openly proclaimed a policy of terrorizing refugees by taking their children away and putting them in cages in our southern border. They came right out and said it. You know, this is to discourage people. Right, we're going to scare them. We're going to terrorize them. I mean, Republicans as a whole have been terrorizing working people since 1981 with kicking off the Reagan Revolution, the war on the right to unionize, the war on American working people, the war on health care, doubling the Social Security tax. I mean, it's like their war on older people, making Social Security benefits taxable. This was all Reagan, their war on Social Security. And now Trump is terrorizing America and the world by bringing us right up to the edge of World War III. And now he's fundraising off it. Just like Bush and Cheney lied about the imminent threat of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq in order to increase their power and make their friends rich, it looks to me like Trump is doing the exact same thing. So who are the real terrorizers here? You know, and Doug Collins going off on this, he said, I mean, this is amazing. He said, we see that they mourn Soleimani more than they mourn our Gold Star families who suffered under Soleimani. That's total BS. So Preet Prahara, you know, the former prosecutor for the the federal prosecutor in New York Southern District, went online and he says, who's running against Doug Collins? I'll max out my contribution to him. Turns out the guy running against Doug Collins it looks like he's kind of a sacrifice candidate. His name is Antwon Stevens. It's spelled ANTWON STEPHENS. He's got an active Twitter site, Stevens for Georgia, and a Facebook site. But I can't find a campaign website, although his Twitter account, Antwon Stevens' Twitter account, you can make a contribution directly through his Twitter account. So I sent him $25 this morning. I mean, the guy's going to run against Doug Collins, even if he doesn't have a chance. I think that we need to start, you know, giving some love to the people who are challenging these crazed Republicans, even when they're doing it in solid red districts. They're not always going to be solid red. Americans are increasingly waking up and saying, wait a minute, this is crazy. And then you look at what's going on. Trump goes on TV yesterday and says, Iran is standing down. But we're going to increase the sanctions. Right? So Trump kills the number 2 or 3 guy in the Iranian government with a drone strike, and the number 1 guy for the Shia militias in Iraq who are aligned with the Iraqi government. He kills them both with a drone strike. And the Iraqi response is to say, please leave our country. And the Iranian response is to hit a couple of American bases in a way that doesn't hurt any Americans and to warn us about it in advance. Like, you know, an hour or 2 in advance of the shots, you know, get your guys in the shelter, because here they come. So Iran was clearly trying to ratchet down tensions and trying to avoid World War III. And then Trump comes out and says, yeah, but we're going to make life even worse for them. Really? After you did something stupid and they responded in a very measured way? So now what's happening today, Iran has changed its tune to a small extent. I mean, there are all these militias all around the Middle East that are aligned with Iran. And Iran is, you know, I mean, you know, for example, the Hashd al-Shabi, Hashd al-Shabi, Shabi. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but Hashd al-Shabi is this military network incorporated in Iraq that the Iraqi government recognizes that is an entirely Shia force. It's an off-the-shelf military. It's not associated with any government, although they have been financially supported by Iran. And Iran and Iraq are now allies. You know, they're both now Shia majority countries. This was George W. Bush and Dick Cheney's work, basically turning Iraq over to Iran. Thank you very much, says Iran.